I'd like to invite on the stage the session chair and moderator for this panel, Dr. Monisha Oberoi, Director, Security Sales at IBM Consulting. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly put your hands together for Dr. Monisha Oberoi as she makes her way up. Dr. Oberoi, what I'm going to do is leave the floor to you so that you can welcome the members of your esteemed panel and take it from there. Over to you, Dr. Oberoi.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very, very good evening and welcome to this much awaited panel on The Future is Open, powered by resilient agility. The world is changing on a daily basis, right? Whether it's the technological changes that are happening, advancements that are happening, the global disruptions that are happening. On a daily basis, we come up with multiple challenges and multiple opportunities as we talk about it. We have a very interesting panel, and we've got highly distinguished panelists here. And I was also listening to Atul just before, and I heard that he said, and very naturally so, that both the technology leaders and our data leaders are becoming extremely critical. And they're becoming most critical now as we speak for the CEOs. And we were looking at what the CEOs study shows like. It also shows very clearly that with all the technological changes, advancements that have taken place, it has just become imperative after the pandemic that this is becoming more and more critical, right? And the roles of the CIOs, the CEOs, the CIOs, CISOs, and the CDOs have become extremely important for the CEOs. On my panel today, we have a combination of all. We have our MD and CEO on the panel. We have a couple of CISOs, CIOs, CDOs from our clients. So without any further ado, I'm going to request my esteemed panelists to please join me on stage. First, I would request to have Mr. Debajyoti Roy Chaudhary, MD and CEO of National E-Governance Services Limited, NESL. So please, welcome. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Deepak Bhosle, Associate Vice President, Information Technology, Asian Paints. Thank you for joining us today. Mr. Pavan Chawla, the CISO for Tata AI. Please, Pavan, join us on the stage. Mr. Venkat Krishnan, who is also the Executive Director for the Public Sector in Microsoft India. Welcome, Venkat. And Mr. Prakash Shetty, Director at Red Hat. Welcome, Prakash. Thank you very much. I think it's a topic that's been set, and the timing has been perfect here, right? Since the time we actually started the session today, we've spoken about generative AI, we've talked about customer experiences, we've talked about what the CEOs are looking for. What today is a board conversation, right? So all of it. First and foremost, we're talking about the future being open, and it's being led by the agility and the resilience. And my colleague just mentioned that resilience and agility are two opposing poles which need to go together to see success. I think there's a third one, right, which is about accelerated innovation to remain relevant. With that, I'm going to first start with Debajyoti yourself. How do you define, when you look at future, when you hear somebody say the future is open, do you really believe it's open, and do you really believe that it's being powered by agility and resilience and innovation? And as a company, you're a public sector company, highly regulated. How do you really manage this, this combination?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Monisha. I think just for this presentation, we had a very interesting presentation saying what are the priorities of the CEO. And I saw that regulatory affairs are, I think, among the top two priorities. And for us, as Dr. Monisha mentioned, that we are also a regulated entity. And that is a comfort which we bring to all our customers who deal with us. We heard of the terms of agile and resilient. So I would say being only agile is like being fragile. So resilience has to be the long-term goal. And this is very important for us as we are a regulated entity. We have regulatory compliances, which are compliance with the IT Act, compliance with Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, compliance with the various state governments legislating relating to stamp duty. We also have compliances related to our information security. We are ISO 27001 company. We have a CISO. So all these checks and balances need to be tick-boxed before we take any product. Now we also talk about future. Recently, our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji was in the US. He gave this very important fact which all of us here in this room should be proud of. 43% of digital payments globally during the last year was done in India. But have we done enough? What is there for us? That brings me to an interesting question. We have achieved a lot in the digital payment space. Today, if my co-panelist from Asian Paints, he needs to do a contract with his supplier, would he not need to still purchase a stamp paper from the stamp vendor, get it physically signed? How many of us have taken a loan, a mortgage loan? We have various digital loans which are fully digital. But if you have a mortgage, do you still have to go to a bank? How many times have you been asked to sign? 20, 30 times? Many of you have lockers. Reserve Bank has said that the locker agreement needs to be redone. How many times do you need to sign? Some of us drive here. Do you need to carry a driving license? No. But if you are in a bank, if for the purposes of audit you are asked to produce a document, why should you still require to take the document out of your safe and produce it to the auditor? If you are to do a legal due diligence as part of an M&A activity, why would you need to first see the photocopies and then you do not know where the originals, go through a second process of due diligence, first with the photocopies and then with the originals? All that is changing. We are an infrastructure provider company. We provide a digital space where any document can be accessed at any point of time. I gave this example where you can easily access your driving license or PAN card through the online medium. Similarly, you can access any document which you have executed at any point of time, and not just you, your bankers. And if you want to see what document you have signed to the bank, you can access it at any point of time. So this is what is going to the future. And this is what has happened in the securities market. We have seen those days when share markets, the share certificates were physical. We would like to see this happening in contract execution in this country, where every contract gets digitally executed. When as part of a due diligence, you do not have to see the contract and be guessing whether it is genuine or not, because it's all stored in a central repository and can be accessed by all parties who are concerned, who are likely to get concerned, a potential acquirer, for example.
And Debajyoti, you can see how excited he is, right? I mean, if we were to give him the entire flow, I think the next 20 minutes, and it's really true because the area is so exciting, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. I would really like to ask Pawan, in your organization, given the fact that there's so many changes happening, right? And we just talked about, when we were outside, we were talking about quantum safe, right? We're talking about the challenges that today we know that there are criminals who are going to be collecting data and harvesting once we have future computers coming. We have generative AI coming, etc., right? Which we have talked about since a long time. How, as an organization, are you coping with this?
it's very difficult to cope up with how the cyber security or cyber industry is changing, because we can't keep up the pace with the hackers. Let's face the fact, and if I tell you that I am keeping the pace, keeping along with the pace of hackers, I'll be telling you the lie. We cannot do that. The kind of money they have and the kind of money they make, we will never be able to have that kind of a money to secure the organization and also invest in that kind of a technology. First of all, most of the technologies we are not even aware of what they have visibility to. Today you look at it, how the market has changed. From ransomware being pushed onto many organizations, today you can hire an implanter at less than as $10 per hour. And now there is a new trend which is going on in the dark web, where you hire a planter and give them a bounty as well if there is a successful implantation, and bounty can go up to $1 million. So the money which they are extracting from you is actually giving to somebody else. So sometimes it feels like it's better to be on the other side than on this side. So the way I look at it, I mean, the kind of money these guys are making, we'll never be able to make that kind of money.
And it's a business in itself today, right? It's one of the most thriving
It
businesses.
is become an organized market now.
Correct.
Now, if you look at from past, ever since the COVID had happened, since 2022, right from the phishing attacks, the kind of AI has helped them a lot. The kind of implantation today happening, it's not the vulnerability which they are exploiting, that's the only thing which is left. There are many advanced threats which have come into the market, whether it is Log4j, whether it is different kind of ransomware attack which have been exploited. Moreover, there is another trend which has changed. They have now become extortionists. They are not only asking ransom for it, they are also actually stealing your data as well. After 6 months, they will push it on the internet. So we have to get out of that place, the way I look at it, that this is going to be the future. This is going to be part of your life. Let's get out of it and let's stop getting scared out of it. What we used to call when we all started our career, I'm getting gray hairs now, so I can talk about it. So, which used to be called bug is now converted into vulnerability because the exploitation is happening. So that's how the terminology changes. That's how the world has changed. And moreover, as we move forward, there are new things which will come up. It has become COVID. You have to live with it, and you have to get over it, move forward, and at least start taking precautions, whatever you put in whatever environment you are living in, and keep your environment safe.
No, absolutely, and very well said. In fact, I'm taking a cue from there. I would really like to understand. You brought up the point around security. We were still on, resilient and agility and how you're managing. And I think you're managing all of that around security. You feel that there is definitely that something can be done. Deepak, would like to understand from your perspective, right? When we talk of resilient agility, when we talk of the organization being able to manage and also manage the innovation element of it, how is your organization coping with it? And your partners, are they keeping in step with what you require?
I think the concept of resilient agility has been there since humanity existed, and it's there across all living organisms. If you see in animals, if you see you have the cat race or the cheetahs who are maybe agile as well as whenever they fall, they actually come up. They're highly resilient as well, and that's why they rule the jungle in a sense. If you look at human beings, if you look at cricket, there are folks like Mahendra Singh Dhoni, who has always been innovating, he's always been agile, he's always kept himself relevant, and he's bounced back on so many occasions. I think organizations also, in some way, have built around this construct, and today you would see a lot of organizations where one end they are extremely agile, like the startups, and other end you have people, very large organizations are extremely easy. So how do you strike a balance? And I think Asian Paints has, since the beginning, since our inception, we've been living to the principles of agility, of resilience, scalability, innovation, and you will see that that's why we've been growing year on year, and a lot of stuff actually has become sort of DNA within the organization, and it largely happens because everything which we do is rallies around the customer, and so if your ears and eyes are so close to the customer, and you're able to perceive things before the customer has even come to you, I think that agility in itself becomes part of the entire engagement you have. There are other things like, is the organization guided by mission? Is every employee aware of where the organization is headed? Is there a certain level of engagement to the goals? that brings a certain level of agility and resilience as a strong foundation in it. And then there's technology, and Asian Paints has been on the tech space. In fact, in early 70s we had mainframes, and I don't think any research organization in India had it. And since then, we've been using digital to build this resilience and agility for long. And the proof came in when COVID struck, when people went into the shell, people started saying, "Dhanda to manda hi hone wala hai." We said, no, it's an opportunity, let's race ahead. And when COVID struck, actually we were really, all the systems which were engineered for agility and resilience came to the fore. Our dealers were able to build through the digital channels. 44% of our revenues were coming through the digital channels where no human was required. And clearly it was like a submarine through a troubled waters, and clearly that induced the faith. So being digital for me is a good lever in these times where you need to be agile as well as resilient. Being digital means constantly scanning what is it that could disrupt the market, what is it that could get in the fabric of an organization, how is it that you could build those competitive differentiators and keep doing at a certain periodicity, so you're always ahead of the game.
Absolutely, and I would like to add, when we talk about, we used to talk about digital transformations alone. Now we start talking about secure digital transformation. So as a leader of your organization, does security come as a default to you? Is it something that you always believe that I should have secure by design, I should lead by security?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've coined something called how can the organization innovate fearlessly. A lot of times you've been so bound by the constructs of security, and that sort of pushes you back. But how can you be secure, and how can you still innovate at a certain pace? And I think that's very much built. Security by design does get built in whatever we do, and it more so because we are now it as a stated objective. And I guess resilience plays a huge role whenever in security. How fast is the organization able to come back when it's faced? Because attacks are going to happen. As I said, you can't do anything after attack, because they are maybe far more innovative in terms of getting at you. It's how, once you are attacked, how fast can you come? Can you come back in a few minutes? Do you have the right tools and technologies which can reboot your systems and get you back to the place where you actually got the breach?
Absolutely.
I think that can really help. And you need to, and security is a shared responsibility. It needs to be done at a technology level. It needs to be done at employee level. Employee awareness being a shared. Every employee needs to know what his actions can actually imply. So that's a shared sense of security. And then there are the principles of security, like you assume there's going to be a breach and design your systems basis that.
So it is very, very interesting that you mentioned that, all the three customers that we have, right, all of you feel that this is a reality and security will happen. We've also got our partners, Microsoft and Red Hat. I'd like to hear from you, Venkat. Now you've heard, what really keeps the CIOs, CISOs and CEOs awake in the night, right? When you develop your platforms, when you develop your products and solutions, how big is security a part of that, and how do you make sure that your clients remain resilient and they remain agile?
So thanks for asking that. I think it's important. I'm just going to build on what my fellow panelists actually made, and I'll try to get some context from Microsoft into it, the way we think about it. For us, we moved from a scenario where we were fundamentally a company which was selling software, and probably we contributed to some of the vulnerabilities that really gave rise to this industry. To a company today.
That's one question I wanted to ask, that why do we need to invest in saving your product?
So to a company today where our mainstream business is a service business. Now, if your mainstream business is a cloud business, then you don't have a choice of waiting for somebody to go and fix something and saying, listen, I'm all okay, somebody else needs to come and do it. Right? So we just repivoted this entire thinking into saying that, can we move away from this bolt-on where we add something to say, hey, listen, I'm securing it, to building it at the design stage itself. So the point that you made is about everybody thinking of security first in any design that we are thinking in. Because you go with the assumption that there are bad actors out there who have the same access to technology, probably more than what us and our customers have. So we stay paranoid, and we make sure that we are constantly trying to get one step ahead, come closer, but be fully aware that a breach can happen. So you start with that basic assumption, and hence you start designing an architecture where security is built in, so that you do away with this whole thing saying that, hey, listen, somebody else has to go and fix it, we have to take accountability for that, because you are a service provider now. So that was the first design change that we had. Number two, what that manifests itself is, let's look at where these attacks are coming from. Right? So the bad actors are everywhere. We saw instances of, I'll just pick on ransomware because that's the one which probably, affects everybody, not just corporates, even as citizens of the country or the world. If you really look at it, if you look at all the data behind it, the maximum number of attacks actually happen because of a bad password. Right? We are all very, very sensitive when it comes to our bank accounts. We understand why an OTP is required. Do we apply the same sensitivity for everything else? We should ask ourselves that question. Why do we even have a multi-factor authentication? Why is it much better? Why is it safer than any other form that we see things happening? Because the password attacks are actually happening as we speak. It's 1,000 plus per second. So we've just boiled it down to saying that what is it that we can do for our customers is first and foremost detect and respond in the shortest possible time so that we are able to minimize and we are able to at least make sure that we are picking up the signals. So how are we picking up the signals? We are picking up the signals. We have trillions of signals that are actually available from all these bad actors. They leave behind. I mean, if you go back to, crime, every criminal leaves behind some trace.
Sure.
Right? So how can you be smart on catching that, but don't stop at that signal, make that signal available to everybody. So we get trillions of signals every day and we share that with governments across the world. Because it's not just us, it is also helping the law, it is helping the police to really figure out what are those patterns that are emerging. So that if a pattern is emerging in one part of the world, how can we catch it before it happens in the other part of the world? That I think is in a way a corporate social responsibility, but since we are a technology company, we have access to that and we are sharing that.
Absolutely.
And it actually helps everybody in the process. I know many tech organizations do that, including IBM.
Absolutely.
And it just puts us in a far better position to collectively go behind this set of bad actors because they are not causing harm to one company or to an individual. They are running a business by itself to the point that was made by Pawan. Right? So that I think is the whole idea of really looking at it as an end-to-end, right from the architecture and making sure that your ability to detect and respond. And in my mind, generative AI will play a significant role in doing that. Because, we'll be coming up with something called as a security co-pilot, which fundamentally means that your ability to detect and respond, can you run it at machine speed? Because the bad actors are running at machine speed. So how do you combat them? You can't combat them by few people who get some skills on security. I can guarantee you if a customer tries to do that, there is no way you're going to get all those skills in the market. It's very expensive. It is impossible to get through everything.
And
so how do we bring in technology?
Right.
To
And I think it's very critical that you made as a point, as a partner, right? Security first, you're thinking from that perspective. You're bringing in the elements of, sharing the data that you have, the information that you have. From a perspective, Prakash, that when you talked about what we heard just now and what Venkat added on to, right? Really, how do you look at resilient agility, right? And how do you make sure that your clients are always a step ahead when it comes to, various elements that we talked about? We're going to run out of time, so we do a rapid fire after this for one more question before we wrap up the session, right?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Monisha. I think good that I'm the last. I could hear everyone and talk about it and probably summarize. I think the good part, any organization which is resilient and has a strong foundation to change with minimal fuss is going to win. Correct? That's a fundamental truth. So if you look at Red Hat, how we started as a company, today a leader in the open source technology, we started with something called as Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which is actually foundation of our entry to the enterprise open source world, which is stable, secure, and scalable enough for enterprises to standardize their platform, whether running it on-premise, virtual, on the cloud with Azure, Amazon, anyone, correct? That gives the flexibility for them. So the foundation is so strong, and if you've heard that containers are native to Linux, correct? And we built on that technology and created, when no one was talking about Kubernetes about a decade back, we invested on Kubernetes and made a platform called as OpenShift Container Platform, which today gives a platform to organizations to build applications, change, modify, deploy new applications at will, so that they are agile enough, fail fast, correct? That's the need of the hour at this point in time. So that's the whole foundation where we brought in resiliency with the foundation of Linux and container platform, automation, and built on that. Our mantra is choose a software that runs on any cloud. Whether it is Microsoft, Amazon, on-premise, virtual, anything. The future is truly open.
Absolutely open. And now I'm going to ask you a quick question for each one of us before we close. Given the fact where we are, we all believe the future is open, future is bright, future is here, right? The talent, when we talk about reimagining talent, the most critical assets that we have are resources. What do you think is the most critical skill that a resource needs to have tomorrow or in future to make this a success?
I think the good part about an open source technology is that, I'm talking about from my vantage point, that it's not dependent on a few number of people developing the software. It's the world that develops the software, and there are more eyes looking at it, and that's why you have a robust secured software. I think one important element to anyone who is learning and skill gaining is concerned with the attitude and the aptitude to learn more, correct? And as we grow, the foundational skills needs to be in place, and there needs to be a right intent and attitude for any skill development.
Rapid fire. Venkat, what do you think is the most important skill of the future?
I'll say three things, and I'll make it quick, I know time's up. The first is growth mindset, right? Having a mindset that we need to continuously grow, we need to continuously learn. What we learned yesterday is not going to be relevant tomorrow. So having that mindset to say, listen, I need to learn. Number two is tech is going to play a very, very important role in the overall GDP of the world. So which means that AI is a very, very important skill. And this is not just for us, but I think even for our kids, we must actually pass on that thing. It is very, very important. But in the context of AI, I think what is very, very important is it's not just about tech alone. AI will actually impact our lives. It will impact everything that we do. So hence it's about the relevance of AI to the business or the work that we do. And hence having deep domain strengths for the industry that you work will get you to harness that AI and come up with that magic sauce on top of it.
Thank you very much. Pawan, what do you think?
So three things which will be required is, one is the openness. The person need to be open and to look at things in and around and get along with that. Second is the agile. Need to be agile, keep on learning new things and keep up the pace. Third is playing with the technology is very important, because unless you play around with it, you will never be able to catch a pace of the way the things are changing. So.
Thank you very much.
It's actually very difficult to say, because 10 years back I never knew there would be a profile called a social listener. 5 years back I never knew there would be a profile called a prompt engineer. I'm sure the next few years we'll have drone traffic controllers type of a profile. So you never know what I learned in college, what I learned, I had a different view of what I was going to do, and I'm maybe 180 degrees away from what I really want to do. So I think, and I keep telling my daughter, she's in 11th, I said, there's one skill which you need to keep working on. Your ability to learn, unlearn. Learn, unlearn, learn, unlearn. That is what is going to keep you relevant. And to add to that a little bit of creativity, your ability to join the dots and create value and do it on a consistent basis. I think that will keep you always relevant. Technology will keep changing, but this attitude needs to be inculcated not just in kids, but I think across the organization.
Very, very well said. Yes, please, Dave.
Okay, two things come to my mind immediately. Firstly, how we can build on the digital public infrastructure we've created for ourselves, which is possibly among the best in the world. And the second thing is something which is not my own. I have not coined this. This is something called population scale. We are already the most populous country in the world. How can we use our digital public infrastructure to leverage that? For example, we have DBT. We have financial inclusion products. Our digital infrastructure helps us in scaling this up and reaching to all our people. And this is important for we as a country, as a people, and as a country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very well said. And thank you very much, everybody. It's very clear that the key elements are very, very, we all synced up on that, right? We all agree that having, rethinking our value, reimagining our talent, and reprioritizing our ecosystem is very, very critical, right? So thank you very much for joining me on the panel. I really, really appreciate it. I'm also going to request you to please stand up. Let's take a quick picture before we actually hand it over. Thank you very much.